explore.
You mentioned something that the people in the crowd probably want to hear more about because they're huge in the Mandela effect community. And you mentioned the word Mandela effect in the beginning of the show. Did you do shows on Mandela effect? I mean, do you believe in the theories of Mandela effect?
I have experienced the Mandela effect.
Okay.
I have personally, and I was in. There's a quick story I could tell you about that, but there's lots of stories I could tell you about that. And my whole idea about what is the Mandela effect, what is actually happening there, I have different ideas about that. But I'll tell you that there was one very shocking experience that I had as a little girl in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. There's a giant Indian statue that sits by the river, and there's one river that flows into the next river. And so the Indian statue is standing there looking at the spot where the one river flows into the other. And as a little girl, I was questioning about what is this Indian statue. And so my aunt took me to that park and she read to me what it said, because I think I was probably 3 years old. And she read to me about this, it was a woman, it was a female Indian, and she had an empty papoose, which her baby had been in. And the story went that she was working in the river, and the Indians at that time, Rockabye Baby in the Treetop, that song, that was from my tribe, because they used to hang the babies in the trees and the wind would blow and rock them. And then if they were working in the water, sometimes they would bring the cradle into the water, and the river movement would rock the babies to sleep. Well, she turned her back. She's working in the water, and the river took her baby. It was just gone. And so she spent forever looking and searching for the baby, and they never did find the baby. And she spent her life there at the river looking for her baby. And so then the story was that they named it the Thief River because it stole her baby. And so the statue was put up there of her looking at the river, waiting for the river to give her baby back because it stole her river. So the river stole her baby. So this statue was on the way to my aunt's house. So every time I went to my aunt's house, I would look over at her and I would say, she's still waiting for the river to give her baby back. And from the age of 3 on up, every single time I drove past that statue, I looked over and I verbally said, she's still waiting for the river to give her baby back. And I acknowledged that. Okay, so then at the age mid 30s, I'm on my way to my aunt's house because my cousin's having a baby shower. And I'm driving past, I look over, I'm going to say it out loud because I always do. And I look over at the statue to acknowledge her, and all of a sudden the statue is a man.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what happened? And I stopped the car, I turned around, I pulled into the park, I stomped out to the statue, I'm looking at it. I'm like, who did this? Why did they change the statue? It's the same size. It's in the same place. It's still an Indian, but now it's a man. And instead of having an empty papoose on her back, he doesn't have anything on his back. And he's holding a tomahawk.
Oh, seriously.
It doesn't look anything the same other than they were both Indians. They were both the same size, both staring at the river. And so then the story at the base of the statue talks about this is a Chief Red Robe is what they called him, but his name really was Mustang. And that they had this area of land was given to them in the treaty, and then it was stolen back by the white people. And so the story goes that they named it the Thief River because they stole the land from them. So I'm like, this is not right. And I was so upset. I went to my aunt's house. I demanded to know why they changed the statue. And nobody knew what I was talking about. Nobody remembered it being a woman. And I'm telling you that this was a big part of my life. It's not.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you.
And so after that, I was just really dumbfounded by how this happened. I searched the internet for information about when they changed the statue. I couldn't find anything. I found that they had erected the statue in the early 70s, and it was always this male Indian. But I did find a story. About the Indian woman. That was a true story. That really did happen in that location. But they didn't put up a statue to her there. So over the years after that, I would talk to people that I would encounter. And if they came from there, if they went to college there, because there's a college right next to that, I would ask, do you remember the statue by the park, by the river there by Northland College? And they'd say, yeah. And I'd say, can you tell me about the statue? What does it look like? Do you know the story connected to the statue? And they all said, well, it's an Indian. And then they would either say it's a man, and they would tell me the story if they knew it. But every once in a while, I come across somebody that tells me it's a woman with an empty papoose, and that she's waiting there for the river to give her baby back every once in a while.
Yeah. That feels good when you get somebody that remembers your same memory. I'm not joking. I'm like that. If you find somebody that has that, if you have one that nobody remembers, but you find the one person that has that same memory, it's kind of refreshing. You don't feel crazy. It takes the crazy out of you a little bit.
Have